reports Vogue in 1909. With the wealthier French women, ballooning is the fad of the hour. As a sport, it has replaced motoring, which is now considered slow and passé. The hostess need not ask her guests if they fly. It is taken for granted that they do. Days, the restless Kaiser keeps on the move. He is happiest in two spheres, military and naval, and is determined that afloat, Germany shall be supreme, not second to Britain. The German economy pounds ahead, dynamic, productive, inventive. The Kaiser, sensing his rising power, has said, God has called us to civilize the world. We are missionaries of human progress. For those who are listening, the words are ominous indeed. The Kaiser visits Venice in 1908. In the halcyon years before World War I, kings and emperors travel frequently, inspiring their well-heeled subjects to do the same. The Kaiser earns the nickname the Reisekaiser, the traveling emperor. All sorts of niceties are observed when king meets king and cousin cousin. George V wears a spiked German helmet when he is greeted by the Kaiser in Berlin. The occasion? The wedding of the Kaiser's daughter. George goes to Paris for several state visits, but Wilhelm only once, in 1878 at the age of 19. The feverish haste and restlessness repelled me, he says. I never wanted to see the French capital again. He never would. But Paris and all of the other capitals of Europe continue to attract the wandering wealthy of the international set. As Winston Churchill will write, the old world in its sunset was fair to see. Beneath the surface of this whipped cream society, there are new and profound developments. Urbanization, the growth of the cities. The new middle class, the white-collar worker. Telephone networks spring up, trolley lines, bus systems. London triples in size between 1850 and 1911. Berlin grows by 1 million in the 3 decades before 1914. Everywhere, change, drastic and sweeping, is in the air. Along with the growth of great cities comes the concomitant, slums, poverty, want. The grim sociology that H.G. Wells and Bernard Shaw are writing about is the festering, disfiguring scar of urbanization. Labor unrest is common, strikes widespread. Miners, dock workers, transport workers, munitions workers, the building trades, a general strike of all workers. There are more than 2,000 strikes in England alone in 1912. Other great social currents are causing upheaval. The suffragettes are fighting for the vote for women. They soon decide, under the leadership of the aggressive Mrs. Emmeline Pankhurst, that the only way to get action is through radical acts. The men are not about to grant the vote out of chivalry. There is violence by the women, violence by the police. But the cause persists, a significant revolution during the last years of peace. In Russia, great change is also underway, although the Tsar seems impervious to it. The big estates are being broken up. By 1914, peasants will own nearly 80% of the land. Yet the awful poverty persists. Russia's economy has the fastest growth rate in Europe, although from a very low base. Will rank 5th in the world when war comes. For the laborer, hours are long, working conditions abominable. Labor unrest increases. 2,000 strikes in 1912. Another 2,000 in 1913. 4,000, involving 1.5 million men in the first half of 1914. One of the worst is the general strike at the Baku oil fields in May of that year. Little aware of the changes that are sweeping his vast land, the Tsar rejects advice that he regain the confidence of his people. It is up to them to regain my confidence, he says. On this tour in 1913, celebrating the 300th anniversary of the Romanov dynasty, he is even convinced that he is a popular ruler. The Tsar, and particularly the Tsarina, are falling more and more under the influence of a licentious peasant turned monk, Gregory Rasputin. Generation of autocrats, actors in a pantomime of power.